The night sky over Europa's colony was calm, filled with the soft glow of distant stars. Scientists and workers moved through the glass corridors, talking about the next big mining operation. No one knew that death was coming. Lieutenant Daniel Reeves sat in the control center, drinking his coffee. His shift was almost over. He looked at the planet Jupiter, its massive form always watching over them. Then, an alarm blared. Red alert. Unknown objects detected. A voice called out. The radar screen flickered, showing dozens of red blips moving fast. Too fast. Before Reeves could react, the first explosion hit. The ground trembled as fireballs erupted from the outer buildings. The communication tower was the first to go, silencing Europa's voice. Then, the energy station exploded, cutting the lights. Reeves grabbed the radio. Mayday. This is Europa Colony. We are under attack. Repeat, under. Static. The aliens had jammed their signals. No one on Earth would hear their cries for help. Screams filled the corridors. Windows shattered. People ran in terror as dark figures in heavy armor stormed in, weapons glowing with deadly energy. Reeves ducked behind a control panel, watching in horror as soldiers were cut down in seconds. These aliens weren't here to conquer. They were here to exterminate. A scientist crawled beside him, blood on her hands. They know our weak points, she gasped. They studied us. Reeves clenched his jaw. This wasn't a random attack. This was planned. He had to survive. Through the smoke and chaos, he spotted a service tunnel leading to the colony's underground hangar. If he could get to a shuttle, he could warn Earth. He moved fast, dodging between fallen beams and lifeless bodies. The smell of burning metal and flesh filled the air. He pushed forward. Survive. Escape. Warn Earth. As he reached the hangar, he heard voices. He froze. Two alien commanders stood near a wrecked human ship, their reptilian eyes glowing in the dim light. One of them laughed. They never saw it coming, it said in a sharp, hissing voice. Earth won't recover from this. The other replied. By the time they realize what happened, they will be next. Rage burned inside Reeves. They thought humanity was weak. They thought wrong. He crept to a small shuttle, heart pounding. As he powered it up, the alien turned. A survivor. Reeves slammed the throttle. The shuttle burst forward, dodging laser fire as it shot into space. Europa was a burning wasteland below him. But he had one mission now. Warn Earth. Prepare for war. Make them pay. The message from Europa arrived 6 hours later. The distress signal was weak, full of static, but the words were clear. They came to erase us. They will come for Earth next. Prepare for war. In the heart of Earth's military headquarters, Fleet Commander Adrian Voss listened in silence. Around him, generals and politicians whispered in shock. Some looked pale, others furious. But Voss already knew what needed to be done. He turned to his officers. Activate Project Revenant. We are no longer playing defense. The war machine awakens. Far beneath the Atlantic Ocean, in a hidden military base, alarms blared. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers rushed to their stations. Project Revenant, a top-secret warship, was still under construction. It wasn't supposed to launch for another 5 years. But now, humanity didn't have that time. The Revenant was unlike any warship before it. Stealth technology, advanced AI, and a weapon the galaxy believed to be impossible, a gravity implosion cannon. A single shot could collapse an enemy ship from the inside. Dr. Evelyn Carter, the lead scientist, hesitated. The ship isn't ready. We haven't even tested the weapons. Commander Voss's reply was cold. Then we test them in battle. Humanity's answer. Across Earth, thousands of soldiers suited up. Factories worked day and night, building weapons, armor, and warships. The war had already started. Lieutenant Daniel Reeves, the only survivor from Europa, was given a special mission. Lead the first strike. He stood before a squad of elite soldiers, his voice steady. They thought we would break. His eyes burned with fury. They thought we would beg for mercy. He clenched his fist. Now they learn what humans do when pushed to the edge. As the Revenant powered up, its engines humming like a storm, Earth sent a message to the alien invaders. You struck first. Now, brace yourselves. The alien fleet hovered over Europa, their warships casting dark shadows over the ruins below. The invaders celebrated their victory, believing humanity was too weak to fight back. They were wrong. From the darkness of space, the Revenant arrived, silent, unseen, and ready for vengeance. The battle begins. Inside the command center, Lieutenant Daniel Reeves stood at attention. The holographic display showed the alien fleet, unaware of their presence. Commander Voss's voice came through the comms. Reeves, you're leading the strike. Show them what happens when they cross humanity. Reeves smirked, with pleasure. The Revenant decloaked behind the enemy ships. The aliens barely had time to react before the first gravity implosion cannon fired. A blinding pulse of energy shot forward, then silence. The nearest enemy warship crumpled inward like a crushed can. No explosion, no debris, just erased from existence. Panic in the alien ranks. On the enemy flagship, alarms blared. The alien admiral's eyes widened in horror. Impossible. No species has weapons like that. Another shot fired. Another ship vanished. Then, the Revenant's missile bays opened. Hundreds of high-speed warheads screamed through space, striking the enemy fleet. Fire and wreckage exploded across the battlefield. The aliens, who thought humanity was helpless, now faced a nightmare they couldn't understand. Reeves leads the charge. Reeves and his elite strike team launched from the Revenant, flying toward the enemy flagship, their target, the alien admiral. As they landed inside the ship's corridors, the aliens tried to fight back. But Reeves was ready. This wasn't defense. This was payback. He fired the first shot. The war had just begun. The alien flagship shook under the relentless assault. Fire and smoke filled its corridors as alarms screamed through the ship. The once arrogant invaders were now scrambling, confused and terrified. Lieutenant Daniel Reeves moved swiftly, his rifle steady as he led his strike team deeper into the enemy warship. The corridors were narrow, dimly lit by flickering red emergency lights. Alien soldiers blocked their path. They fired first. Humans fired last. Reeves ducked behind cover, his voice calm but firm. Push forward. No hesitation. His team responded with deadly precision. One by one, the aliens fell. Their armor was strong, their weapons advanced, but they had never fought humans at their angriest. Fear spreads among the enemy. Inside the alien command center, Admiral Scarrath watched the battle unfold. His fleet was burning. His soldiers were losing. He turned to his officers, his voice full of rage. How are they this strong? We destroyed their colony. A trembling officer whispered, we underestimated them. Scarrath's claws tightened. This was supposed to be a swift extermination, not a war. But now, the hunters had become the hunted. Reeves reaches the command center. Reeves kicked open the final door. The alien admiral stood inside, his guards raising their weapons. But they were too slow. Reeves fired. His team followed. In seconds, it was over. Scarrath, wounded and gasping, stared at the human soldier standing over him. You should not exist, the alien whispered. Reeves knelt beside him, gripping his rifle tightly. And yet here I am. A message was sent to the remaining alien fleet. Surrender or be erased from history. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. The alien fleet hesitated. Their admiral was dead. Their strongest warship had fallen. They had never lost like this before. Inside the burning flagship, Lieutenant Daniel Reeves stood over the alien command console. The dead body of Admiral Scarrath lay at his feet. Reeves activated the ship's communication system. His voice was calm, cold, full of warning. To all alien forces still listening, this is humanity's response. He played a live feed from Earth. Earth's answer: total war. The video showed thousands of human warships launching, factories working day and night, soldiers training with one goal: revenge. And then, the Revenant appeared. It hovered above Earth, fully armed and ready to bring hell. Reeves continued, his voice like steel. You thought we were weak. You thought we would kneel. Now you will learn the truth. He leaned closer to the screen, his eyes burning with fury. This war doesn't end with our surrender. It ends when your entire empire remembers why they should have never touched humanity. Panic in the enemy ranks. Across the alien fleet, officers and soldiers watched in horror. They had believed humans were just another weak species to conquer. They had made a terrible mistake. On board the enemy command vessel, a general turned to his crew. Retreat. Now. Some ships turned to flee. But the Revenant was already in pursuit. No escape from retribution. Commander Adrian Voss sat in his command chair, watching the enemy fleet try to escape. His expression didn't change. Fire. The Revenant unleashed its full power. Gravity implosion cannons, missile swarms, precision laser strikes. There was no mercy. Enemy ships vanished in an instant. What was once an invasion fleet became a graveyard. Reeves' final warning. As the last enemy vessel exploded, Reeves sent one final message to the alien homeworld. You struck first. You thought it would be easy. Now, you will know what it means to fear. With Europa avenged, the humans had won the battle. But now, they were taking the war to the enemy's doorstep. The battlefield was silent. Wreckage floated in the darkness of space, the remains of what was once a mighty alien fleet. The Revenant hovered above it all, its weapons still hot from the destruction it had unleashed. The humans had struck back harder than anyone could have imagined. But this was only the beginning. Lieutenant Daniel Reeves stood on the alien flagship's ruined bridge, staring at the stars beyond. The bodies of fallen invaders lay around him, their expressions frozen in shock. He had expected them to be fierce warriors, but in the end, they had broken. They weren't prepared for what humanity had become. A transmission came through his helmet. Commander Adrian Voss's voice was steady. We have full control of the enemy systems. Their homeworld just received your message. Reeves exhaled slowly. Good. Let them feel the weight of their mistake. Far across the galaxy, on the enemy's capital planet, leaders of the alien empire watched in horror as human warships mobilized. The destruction of their fleet had been broadcasted live. There were no survivors to deny what had happened. For the first time in centuries, fear crept into their bones. They had seen countless species fall before them. They had crushed civilizations without resistance. But the humans were different. The humans were coming. Back on the Revenant, engineers and soldiers worked tirelessly. Weapons were reloaded. Damage was repaired. The fleet was preparing for the next phase. Earth had spent years building defenses, expecting to fight a war of survival. Now, they were no longer defending. Now, they were taking the fight to the enemy. Reeves sat in the drop bay, checking his weapon. Around him, his squad did the same, silent but focused. They had fought for survival before. Now, they fought for retribution. A low hum filled the air as the ship's engines roared to life. Their next target had been decided. The invasion of the alien empire was about to begin. The fleet moved like a shadow through the void, silent and relentless. The Revenant led the charge, a monstrous warship now feared across the galaxy. Behind it, Earth's armada, hundreds of warships, thousands of soldiers, and weapons the enemy had never seen before. For the first time in history, humans were the invaders. Inside the command deck of the Revenant, Commander Adrian Voss stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His gaze was fixed on the holographic display before him. The enemy's homeworld, Valkyris, was within reach. A fortress planet, heavily guarded, filled with the very species that had once viewed humanity as nothing more than an insect to be crushed. Now those same invaders were fortifying their cities, preparing for the battle of their existence. Lieutenant Daniel Reeves stood beside Voss, his armor scuffed from their previous mission, his rifle still within arm's reach. His face was unreadable. He had watched his home, his people, be slaughtered without mercy, and now he had come to return the favor. Voss glanced at him. "How many of them do you think truly understand what's coming?" Reeves scoffed. "None of them. But they will." The Revenant's AI, EC-809, spoke in its cold, synthetic voice. Enemy fleet detected. Intercepting transmissions. Panic levels rising. On Velcaris, alarms blared. The human fleet had arrived. Alien generals barked orders. Civilian ships fled the planet in a desperate attempt to escape the inevitable. Their leaders had spent centuries crushing lesser species, erasing entire civilizations without a second thought. Now, they were the ones about to be erased. The enemy fleet scrambled into position. Thousands of warships, planetary defense cannons, and automated drone swarms formed a final line of defense. Their technology was still superior. Their numbers were still greater. But it no longer mattered. Humanity had proven one undeniable truth. When pushed to the brink, they did not break. They became something far more dangerous. Voss's voice rang through the comms, reaching every human soldier in the fleet. "This is it. They took our people. They burned our worlds. They thought we would kneel." His voice hardened. "Now we show them what fear truly means." The Revenant fired first. A gravity implosion cannon shot forward, colliding with an enemy dreadnought. In an instant, the ship folded in on itself, crushed into nothingness. 100 more human warships followed, unleashing a firestorm of destruction. The alien fleet responded with everything they had. Plasma cannons roared, missile swarms darkened the sky, energy beams sliced through space. Human ships took hits, some fell, but for every warship lost, 10 enemy vessels burned. On the surface of Velcaris, civilians looked to the sky in horror. The impossible was happening. Their grand fleet, the mightiest in the galaxy, was losing. Then, the drop pods launched. Reeves and his strike team hurtled toward the surface like meteors. Thousands of elite human soldiers followed. Their mission was clear: storm the capital, eliminate the leaders, and end this war. His pod smashed into the enemy's grand palace. The doors blasted open. Enemy soldiers were waiting. But Reeves was faster. He charged forward, rifle blazing, cutting down the first wave before they could even react. His boots echoed through the halls as he pressed on, his team behind him. The enemy tried to fight back. It didn't matter. Every step forward was another nail in their empire's coffin. Then he reached the throne room. The Supreme Chancellor of Velcaris stood frozen in fear, the leader of an empire that had conquered 100 worlds, now trembling before a single human soldier. Reeves raised his weapon. "You struck first," he said coldly. "Now you learn what happens next." The shot rang out, and with it, the war was over.